Okay, good morning. Good morning, my beautiful people. Good morning, Adam. How are you
Good
doing,
morning,
man?
sir. How are you?
Adam's got his coffee. He's ready to rock. For those of you that
That's
don't
right
know,
there, man. Musicians duet better.
when Adam hasn't had his coffee, he's not ready for the day. When he's had his coffee, he's ready for the day.
I don't think you've ever seen me without coffee.
I have once. It wasn't pretty.
Oh,
It was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde moment.
yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Musicmakers live stream. It is wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to see you all. Let us know where you're from. I can see comments coming through already. Oh, great. Yes. So, okay. Elaine says, how did it get so late so soon? Yeah, we are an hour later today, Elaine. Thank you for bearing with us. We're trying to experiment with the timings for the exact reason that Lisa said here. She's in the US. She prefers a slightly later start time. It's always hard because we're a global community. It's always going to be early for someone. It's never going to be sort of the perfect time. You know, it's tricky. Drew's here. Hey, Drew, great. Good to see you again. Blue Boy's here from Lower Saxonia, Germany. Awesome. I would
Cool.
love, yeah, I'd love to get out there to Germany. I haven't been since I was a kid. Martin's here from Rochester in Kent. Stacy, yes, Stacy, my favorite time of the day. My favorite time as well.
Same.
The time when we just get to talk about guitars, hang out together, talk about music, share this thing that we love so much. It's very, very cool. And I love that username, Bleeding Fingers. That sounds like a committed guitarist.
I think we've all been bleeding fingers at some point in our careers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Steven's here, David's here. Great. Hi, everybody. Good to see some familiar faces, some new faces coming in. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, everybody. It's so cool, isn't it? I know I say this every week, but just seeing everybody dialing in from like all over the place. Bruce is here. Hey, Bruce. Frank's here from Kansas. Great to see you again. Gary's here. All right, listen, everybody, we're going to get going because it's 5 past and we started a little bit late, so we need to dive in. Before we do, I just want to let you know that today we've got a really, really cool show to discuss with you today.
Yes.
We're going to talk about something very, very cool. We usually have like a chord tips or lead tips, some theory. One of the things we're going to share with you today is kind of a blend of all of them rolled into one, so that's going to be very cool. We're going to be talking about the Rolling Stones, 12-string guitars, loop pedals, Fleetwood Mac, and lots of guitar Q&A. So if you've got any questions, if you've got any cues that you want A's to, put them in the chat. We would love to get your comments. Any questions you've got, anything you need help with as a musician, anything you're struggling with, any roadblocks that you've hit, anything you've always wanted to know about, please drop it in the chat. Don't worry how simple it may sound. We've all been complete beginners at some point. You're absolutely free. You have complete permission here to ask silly questions that seem really like obvious. This is the place to get them answered. If you want to do more advanced stuff, cool, we've got you back.
And remember too, there's no such thing as a silly question because we're all starters at some point, right? So no matter where you are, if you got a question, just know that it's valid and that we're here to help you with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what this is for. That's the whole idea. Anything you need help with, please post it in there in the chat. Before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some exciting news because we have a massive membership promotion that's happening at the moment. So before we dive into today's content, I just wanted to point this out to you, that you can become an NGA member. You can scan that QR code that's there at the side of the screen. And it's the best possible time to ever join NGA because our prices are about to go up. So if you join now, you'll get the very, very, very last part of this like launch period of our membership. If you become an NGA member, you get a personalized guitar learning plan, access to our guitar metrics system, the personalized guitar learning roadmap dedicated just to you. You get access to our amazing community campus where our very welcoming, very friendly community of guitar learners gather. You'll get access to all of our guitar courses, a world-class guitar learning suite at your absolute fingertips. You'll also get access to the song library where you have lots of chord sheets and tabs differentiated by ability level. So you can find stuff that's perfect for your level. And of course, you get access to the weekly members live stream with Adam and I, which takes place on a Monday. So I think it is the hands down the best value guitar membership in the world. It certainly is right now. It'll be less good value next week when the price goes up.
Right.
So if that sounds like fun to you, if you want to become an NGA member, then scan the link, the QR code there, go over there. That offer will be ending in just a couple of days. If you want to join us, please do so. We would love to have you on board.
And if you're not sure how to scan a QR code and you've never done it before, grab your smartphone, open up your camera application, point your camera to the QR code, and at the bottom of your camera screen, you're going to see a little URL pop up. You're going to tap that, and it's going to open your browser on your phone, and it's going to take you straight to the NGA membership page where you can sign up there. So all you got to do, open your camera, point it in front of the QR code. It'll scan it for you automatically. 95% of smartphones will all be able to do this. And if you can't scan the QR code for whatever reason, let us know in the chat. We got Chris in here, and he'll be more than happy to provide you with a direct link.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for putting that out, Adam. Glenn says he's 2 weeks in. It's already worth the cost of an annual membership. Glenn, thank you, mate. I'm really pleased that you're enjoying that. I'm pleased that you're having fun in there. It's great to see new members coming on board and digging this stuff. Right, come on. We've got to get to it. Right, today, first of all, I wanted us to talk about something really cool I was playing around with on the guitar this week, and I thought we should share this because this is going to be very useful for people. Adam, I'm just going to bump you to the side so I can display this really clearly. Very, very cool guitar technique that I'm going to share with you now, which is kind of at the intersection of chords, lead, and theory. So I'm going to try and wrap all of this up for you in a way that will make sense. This is very cool. If you're a Rolling Stones fan, you're going to dig this. If you are a fan of rock guitar, blues music, any type of sort of, popular guitar-based music, you are going to enjoy this, right? We're going to look at something here, which is, it's got a complicated name, but it's super simple. What we're looking at here is how we play a musical, a fourth. But what I'm going to show you is how it sounds in context. Right, let's say I'm playing a C chord like this, all right? So here's my C chord. It's a bar chord, yeah? It's an A-shaped bar chord. If I played it there, it would be A. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm moving it up. I'm putting a bar behind it. So my A became a B, became a C. So if I'm playing here and I'm playing a C chord, right, whenever you play that shape, yeah, a movable A shape, we use that all the time as guitarists. One of the most common bar chord shapes that we use. Whenever you play that, you've got a really cool alternative sort of hammer-on / chord inversion that you can use, which is here. Now follow this carefully with me, okay? I'm going to forget the bar, that's gone. And I'm going to just play here. All right, can you see that okay? So it's like an A major 7 shape that I'm playing there. Now when you play that, now any Rolling Stones fans will recognize this immediately. Watch this. Yeah, so you see that? I'm playing that exact shape there, and then here. Keith Richards is such a fan of the shape that he uses it again and again. Okay, so what did you notice throughout that whole progression? It was the same hammer on. I just did it again and again and again and again. And it always sounded fun. Yeah, the Stones use it on loads of things. So like Start Me Up. Yeah, the Stones use that all the time, all over the place, all the time, every time. And it always works. So why does it work? Well, it's actually really cool. When we play that, what we're doing is we're playing the 4th chord in the key. So it's super cool because like we start off by playing like a C chord. Now, for anybody who knows music theory, they will know that that C chord there, when you're playing in the key of C, let me move up there. So this is my C note. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that 4, the 4th note is F, which means that the 4th chord is F in the key of C. Remember, the keys are built from the scale that matches that. Yeah, so the key of C major is comprised of chords that come from the scale of C major. They're the same thing in lots of ways. They're almost interchangeable in so many ways. So when we play that cool, like, Rolling Stones style shape there, what we're playing is C, but then when we play here, that's actually F. What we're playing here is an inversion of F. It's just 3 notes. We don't really think of it as playing F. You sort of just think of it as a cool hammer-on that you do while you're playing C. But actually what you're doing there is you're playing very quickly C to F. And they always always sound good together because they're two major chords that are in the same key. Now, as you notice when I was running all over the fretboard with this before, this works on any major chord that you're going to play with that A shape. So what's beautiful about it is it's a movable shape. It's something you can hang your hat on that you know is going to work with like any movable A shape that you use ever. It's always going to sound good. Now you can completely overdo it and use it all the time like Keith Richards does. And by the way, it hasn't worked out too badly for Keith. Or you can be a bit more selective and just use parts of it. You don't need to play the whole shape. You know, it might be that you want to play just part of that shape. Let's have a look at that again. So here's my C shape. Oh, sorry, I'll play the C chord here. And I'll move up here. Now if I want to, I can just play that bit. Or I can play here. It's useful, I think, to think of it as an A minor shape there. You picture it as an A minor chord. You get a nice little run there. That's always going to be close to hand because you're playing those chords. So it's a really cool chord / lead guitar / theory thing to know. Adam, do you ever use that much, mate? Like, I mean, I know it's a really cool, quite well-known sort of riff / lick thing to do. It just always sounds really cool. You know, like I don't use it as much as I should. It's so cool. Do you use it much?
Movable inversions like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about inversions that's amazing. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm a little far from my microphone.
No,
here.
mate, it's all good. You're coming too hot. Yeah.
The cool part about inversions is that when we start to learn them, like, how do I put this? Like, the first time you learn the fretboard, right? You learn the fretboard and you say, oh, I can see a scale there. I can see a chord there. I can see a scale there, etc. The more that you learn the fretboard, the more you're going to start to learn about how we recycle notes. And because each chord is built off of a series of notes, we're able to flip the formation of those notes a lot of the time into different positions. So, you know, say, for example, your A minor chord is like an A and an E, followed by another A, and then a C, and then an E. Well, you can flip those around. They don't have to be in that order, right? Maybe you started on the C, maybe you started on the E. These types of inversions are going to give you so much more access to the fretboard. So if you are learning the fretboard right now, one key thing that we can stress for you is take a look at your common chords that you know, your C major, your A minor, your E major, etc. Write down the notes of those chords and then find how many different combinations there are for those notes, regardless of sequence, across the fretboard. Because when we look at everything in sequence, it's one thing. When we start to flip them around, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, there are 100 other options on the fretboard that we never even saw before.
Can I just say,
knows this.
Can I just say, I just love the way Adam just casually dropped like 3 months of study on you all. Like, oh, by the way, just, you know, like clear your diary from now till December.
It's all right here, man. Joe members live stream as well. Joe Pass Guitar Chords book, man. All the inversions you need to know are in there. And as soon as you realize that, like, nothing ever needs to be in sequence. Sometimes they do. You know, if you want to play an A minor like that, you got to play it in sequence. But there are other places for you to play that chord across the fretboard. Don't utilize those sequence of notes. Not only will they sound similar but different, give you a slightly different interpretation of that same chord, but they'll also fit a whole bunch of different contexts as well. And yeah, Keith Richards knows this, man. A lot of those, like, and the cool thing about this is it only ever makes things easier. Like when we look at that, yeah, Glenn says he's the triad master, and he knows this stuff, right? Because as soon as you're able to start and getting the music out of those types of things, that's in music, we just call that parallel motion. You're just making the exact same movements in different positions, right?
Yeah, I think that's what's so cool about them. And that's probably why Keith likes them, because so much of the time, certainly in the past, he was blind drunk a lot of the time, wasn't he? When he was playing, he was high.
Breadth of motion's not all there sometimes, man. You got to do what you got to do. If you haven't read his biography called Life, that is the biggest adrenaline rush I've ever gotten out of a book. It's so cool, man. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some crazy stuff in there, but just to see, like, if we're talking rock and roll and the gospel of, I mean, he's the leader of all of that as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, one of the great things I think about Keith Richards for me is that I love the way he plays so loose, you know, and it's like You know, in this age where so much of music is kind of snapped to like a grid and
Yeah.
auto-tuned and overproduced, one of the things I love about the Stones is that you can hear that some things aren't right. Sometimes the guitar's slightly out of tune and it sounds better for it because
It
on
does.
this particular, it's like the imperfections are what give it its character, I think, with so much of that early Stones stuff.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is down to Keith Richards kind of, a lot of the time he doesn't play perfectly in time. It's kind of shambolic, but
Yeah.
it's close enough that it still sounds good. I love that about him, that relaxed vibe, man. He's not trying to make everything perfect. He's happy to let the music flow. One of the best comments ever I heard Keith Richards say was in about, I don't know, it was about the year 2000, something like that. And he said, there's a lot of rock, nowadays. He said, but people forget about the roll. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, you want the rock stuff, but I know what he's going at there. When you need the roll, you want the movement, you want the bounce, you want space. I want those imperfections, speaking personally.
Yeah, man. Two things to that point really quick that I think are super cool. I don't remember if we mentioned this on this live stream or the members one, but I'll say it anyway. There was an interview I saw Rick Beato and Zach Wilde. If you don't know who Zach Wilde is, A, he's the king of pinch harmonics. B, he played with Ozzy Osbourne for quite some time. He also played with Black Label Society, great bands all around. He was in an interview with Rick Beato, and Rick Beato said, how much better do you think those albums would have been if guys like Jimi Hendrix and like Nirvana had access to Pro Tools and like Logic the way that we have now? Because I mean, we've got every tool in the shed, and all you have to buy is Logic. I mean, it comes with everything now. You don't have to buy anything if you don't want to. But he said a really great thing. He was like, there's a magic to that. If we had Pro Tools the way that we have Pro Tools now back then, those albums would have been forgettable. And Gary's actually got a really good point here. He's going to lead me to my next point. Kurt Cobain was the same, a very sloppy player, but it worked out okay. It did. And it's a very cool kind of return to form that we are seeing within the younger music community right now. I'm on TikTok. I watch a lot of the younger musicians to see what they're up to.
Yeah.
Because we got to look out for the kids, of course. And there's this whole movement called, I guess it's called trash rock, where the youth are basically refusing to grid their recordings. And when I say grid, I mean like have everything locked in. So
Cool.
You've got people that are like idolizing early Pearl Jam, Nirvana, like early Rolling Stones, and even the Beatles too, right? The Beatles, none of that stuff was tightened up and gridded. It was all
exactly
right off the floor the way it's
Yeah.
supposed to be. And it was dirty. It was nasty. Drew says it's dirty and sloppy like the Delta Blues. Exactly. But there's a life in that everybody's trying to get back to right now. I'm watching Loving the Culture move in that direction. It's a wonderful return to form.
Mate, I couldn't be more on board. I could not be more on board with that. So Drew here says, perfection is for AI, not for us humans. And I couldn't agree more, Drew. I really could. And I think also you guys, everybody on this call, just like me, can see the relentless march of technology and the way things are going. And we've got to hold on to our humanity, man. We've got to protect it. We've got to nurture it. We've got to savor it. We've got to keep it around. And music is just the same. There's a million different sectors of the world that's going to apply to. But as far as music's concerned, I'm going to fight the good fight, man. I'm going to fight against the AI. I'm not going quietly.
There's magic in recording like that, man. I was working on a track the other day for a client, and I was quad tracking guitars, and it's a bit of a heavier tune. And I said to myself, I wonder if each one of these takes is just slightly different than the last.
Yeah.
I wonder how that's going to work out. And sure enough, instead of gridding everything and lining it all up together,
you need the variety
on a modern metal record, we ended up instead with this, like, it wasn't like a mishmash of sound, but it was enough where like you're really feeling the energy coming off of the guitars because they're not lined up. They're still playing together. It's not sloppy where they're overlapping.
Yeah. But there's a difference between playing like mathematically perfectly in time. You can be slightly out of time and it still sounds like you're in time.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be like perfect to the absolute millisecond,
Yeah. Don't let the Pro Tools purists get to you. You know what? There's something to be said for playing dirty.
I completely agree. Listen, everybody, if you are enjoying the live stream, please remember to subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Let's tell Google. Let's let our AI overmasters know, hey, this live stream's worth paying attention to. Wanted to just cycle back. I missed a couple of comments from earlier on. Here we go. So Martin said, I have a Blackstar ID core amp, built-in effects, not easy to move to from them. Are standalone pedals better? Which do you start with? I've been suggested overdrive, chorus, delay, reverb. Martin, yes, standalone effects are better.
Yeah.
Although the built-in effects on an amp, I always say they're great if you like. It was like a kid, and like you want to buy like a little starter amp for your daughter or your son or something like that. It's good for them to sort of play around with and get introduced to effects. But yeah, having separate pedals is better. Or you could get a multi-effects unit that's got those things built into it. In general, I'm not a fan of effects that are built into amps at all, outside of the context that I just said. If it's just like something for a kid to sort of play around with in the room and have fun with, that's not a bad way to be introduced to those effects. But certainly, I think for adult players that care about their tone, then definitely getting them individually, as like separate pedals, is definitely better. Adam, would you agree?
Yeah, it's a control thing, man. The amps, the onboard onboard effects on your amplifier are great. The Blackstar ID core is actually a really cool amplifier. It's got a lot to offer. But don't forget, these effects serve as an introduction to the amount of control that you could have. If you have these in a stomp box, you have a multi-effects unit, like Mike was saying too. If you don't want to commit to a whole pedal board, there are things like the Eventide H9, the Line 6 HX Stomp, or the Pod Go that will have all of that in there, and it will give you the same control as a pedal board. Now, you got to be a little bit tech savvy with some of this stuff, but it does help you avoid spending thousands of dollars on pedals. And trust me, if you buy one pedal, you're going to want to buy 10 more, right? So yeah, take a look at your slope. Yeah, it's a slippery slope, but there are a lot of really cool digital options that are a bit of a lower financial footprint that will still give you the pedal board. So I'd say look into some of that stuff as well, Martin. A lot of the stuff from Line 6 right now is super awesome. But yeah, you're going to want that control eventually. Stomp boxes are great.
And to answer the sort of second part of your question, Martin, like what pedal should you start with? Yeah, I would say an overdrive pedal and a reverb pedal, I think, are kind of essential. Yeah. And then depending on what type of music you enjoy, absolutely, yeah, a chorus pedal and a delay pedal would be cool. For the type of music that I like, which is, kind of rock and roll, blues, based rock, it's sort of slightly, sort of heavier stuff. Certainly an overdrive pedal is always my go-to, because when you think about an electric guitar tone, like you've got to have some overdrive, man. It has to be there. So like, just super quick for anybody who's new to this, like if I'm playing clean, then I can play my chords like this. Yeah, and that's fine. That might be what we want for the song. I play clean loads of the time, but if we add some overdrive on there, that's when we get that kind of classic, that more classic sort of electric guitar tone. We get that by using an overdrive pedal.
Totally.
All right, cool. Lisa, thank you. Lisa said the best part of the membership, logged in yesterday and boom, 2 new courses magically appeared in my course list. Yes, that's right, Lisa. It was like magic for you. It wasn't like magic for me. I worked my absolute backside off for the last 2 months or so putting those courses together. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying them, Lisa. They're so cool. I really love those 2 new courses. Loop Secrets, for anybody who missed that. I think, was it 2 weeks ago? I think that we covered it. Let me bring it up here. I've got it here. So this is our new course that we released a few weeks ago, learning how to loop with your guitar in 3 hours. And basically that shows you how to use a loop pedal. And the other course was Pentatonic Breakout, which is a course specifically dedicated to showing you how to get outside of box 1. Most players kind of begin with the pentatonic box 1. And they kind of stay there forever. Yeah. and an important threshold moment for a guitarist is when we start moving outside of that box and playing more horizontally and basically making it sound like you're not just playing notes from inside a scale, or heaven forbid that you're just ascending and descending a scale, which doesn't sound musical at all and is really, really dull. So yeah, thank you, Lisa. I'm pleased you're enjoying those two courses. Everyone worked really hard on those courses.
And as a note to that, actually, really quick before we continue, everybody, if you're just getting started with National Guitar Academy, you're just learning who we are actually posting a whole lot of snippets from inside our membership program right now, from our courses on our YouTube channel. So you will find some snippets from Pentatonic Breakout. You will also find some snippets from Loop Secrets, and you'll find some snippets from some of our other courses as well. Head on over to our YouTube channel, go to the shorts section. We are posting everything under a minute right now.
Yeah,
our goal for the next month is to get you to learn these concepts in under 60 seconds. And so far, it's working. So
yeah, it has gone well, hasn't it, Adam? Yeah, so far. So like everybody, like as you all know, like almost everybody in this call will know, I'm not really like a social media guy. I kind of hate social media and think it's destroying our species slowly. But that's for a different live stream. We won't go into that now.
next week. That's next week. We talk about the downfall of society.
Yeah, yeah. But I recognize that, like that is the world. Social media is here. It's part of the world. So we've kind of reluctantly really got behind it. We're going to be posting stuff everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Yeah. I quite like YouTube. I can get behind YouTube. I do enjoy YouTube because it feels like a natural fit for guitar stuff.
It is. Yeah.
So this great point here from Glenn. So Glenn said, technology of any kind is why our music is still popular today, even among young folks. My kids love AC/DC, Aerosmith, the Stones, the Cars, Foreigner. So much great music and performances. Yeah, I agree, Glenn. My kids are the same. Like my daughter absolutely loves like that. She's actually going out of this phase right now. But for a long time, all she wanted to listen to was "Jump" by Van Halen, and like that was that was the every time we got in the car. That's every time we got in the car, she was like, "Can you put Jump on, please, Daddy?" And I was like, I mean, I love the track, but I was like, "Damn, again," I love that.
I mean, that you got to learn how to play it, man. If you don't already.
Yeah, I can play most of it, but not that solo. Like, there's some crazy like Eddie Van Halen moments in that solo. I bet you can play it though, Adam. Come on, you can do all that shreddy stuff, can't you?
I learned a lot of Van Halen when I was younger, and I first started getting into. Honestly, Eddie did more for me than most musicians did.
Yeah, what a dude, man! What an absolute dude.
Yeah, for me it was Eddie Van Halen and Warren Haynes from the Allman Brothers band. Those were the two when I was younger that just like, apart from all like the metal stuff, but like, it's funny because metal never really like, I love metal so much, but it didn't have that same influence on me as like the Van Halen records or like old Allman Brothers stuff. There was a soul, there was a passion in it that was different. Django Reinhardt, much the same way, but yeah, Eddie's stuff was amazing. And side note, congrats to Wolfgang Van Halen because he just got married. If that doesn't make you feel dated, yeah, he walked down the aisle to a song that his father wrote for him, and
yeah, that's beautiful, man.
But good on him, man. I wish that whole family nothing but the best. Rest in peace to Eddie.
Absolutely. Bruce said we have to remember that in the late 50s and 60s, how the industry hated on rock and roll and R&B. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And I just heard on the radio yesterday about when the Beatles got their MBEs, like is that member of the British Empire? I think it stands for. They went to Buckingham Palace and were presented with their MBEs, and they were so hated by the establishment that lots of people who already had MBEs returned them in protest. There's like some like general who'd fought in World War One and World War Two, like returned all of his medals. It seems crazy to think like nowadays the Beatles are kind of treasured, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it seems crazy to think that back in the day there was a period of time where some parts of society kind of hated them or felt threatened by them, or crazy.
Fear of the unknown, right? Everything was changing in and around that time, and like, what's funny is like, I hate to say it because obviously you don't want conflict in the world, but I wish there was more of that controversy in music nowadays, because that's when you knew something was going to change. That's when you knew the heat was on. There was something big coming, and there was so much culture moving during those time periods. I just wish I'd been around for it,
Yeah, but and also I think musicians then, I don't know, maybe I'm making a generalization because I'm an old guy, but like it felt to me like musicians then were maybe a bit more political, had more fire in the belly. Rebelliousness was kind of tolerated a bit more. People didn't, I don't know, I feel like people were happy to not conform, and I agree, we miss that. We miss that nowadays, and I think that sometimes like where are those artists now that are stirring things up?
They're in the hardcore scene. Head to Boston or also Hamilton, Ontario. Yeah, they're still around, man.
They're still there. I guess they're just not mainstream, or you just don't hear of them. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The thing.
A couple of points I wanted to cycle back to here. Blue Boy said standalone effects are a matter of money. I agree, but at the same time, there's a brand here in the UK. I guess you guys will have them in the States and in Canada. I think it's called Behringer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Derringer.
and they're like, dude, their stuff's not bad. You know, it's like it's super cheap, but it's not bad. You know, I got like a vintage overdrive pedal for, you know, all my serious pedals and my heavy gear is all here in the studio. But I wanted something for just jamming with at home. Their vintage overdrive pedal, like, okay, it's not as good as the big boy stuff I've got here, but it's okay. It's not bad. So I think if you're on a budget and you want to get started with decent effects, then I think you could either just get some cheaper standalones or get a multi effects unit. So like Bill says, he's got a great foot pedal. It has everything on it: wah, big muff, blues, sustain, distortion, loop, and that's just a few of them. So I think definitely multi effects is a really good way to get good bang for your buck. Adam, do you know, is there like a good cheap multi effects unit that's got decent effects on it? Or if anybody's got any recommendations, please post them in the chat. Bill, what's the model? What's the model that you have? You sound happy with it.
I saw somebody had mentioned that they had a Digitech RP 500 series. If you're just getting started out with multi effects, those are really cheap and they're really easy to use. The Line 6 Pod Go, it's a little bit pricier and it's a couple $100, but you will get a lot out of it. It has its onboard volume / wah pedal. You can assign it. Yeah, I like the Pod Go. I like the HX Stomp. Eventide, I believe, has the H9 is their kind of flagship effects unit. I'm not sure how many effects you can run with that at a time. Yeah, there's the Pod Go there. Yeah, one of my buddies that I songwrite with just picked one of those up recently, and he's loving it. I had the chance to try it out. It's basically like a condensed version of the Helix, which is what I use, and
Yeah.
it's fantastic. I say Line 6 over everything for multi effects, but I'm also super biased that a lot of those other modeling companies, Kemper, Axe Effects, you know, they're very pricey. Neural DSP has the Quad Cortex, is really cool too. The alternative, though, if you don't want to spend all that money, but you still want to play with effects, if you have a little recording interface, look into some of the amp simulations that you can download for very cheap online. Check out Neural DSP, Neural DSP. They make a lot of really great amp sims for your computer. So if you have GarageBand and you can plug into an interface, you just record that dry signal and you can amplify it from within your computer just through headphones. And that gives you a whole suite of distortion, effects, reverbs, everything that you want. And these are all very fairly priced. Honestly, getting after good tone is a lot easier and a lot cheaper than it's ever been before. I remember when I was younger, just trying to, you know, being a tone chaser, and it was very much a financial thing for a long time, and it was very depressing. At least now, the barrier to entry is so much lower. It still requires a financial commitment, but the barrier to entry is so much lower now, and the effects are so much better.
Yeah,
God,
they
I
really
used
are.
a
And the
pod.
digital ones.
Yeah, I used a Pod XT Live for years, and like it took me hours before shows to like get my tone right, and then even still putting it through an amplifier, it still sounded terrible.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that's interesting because Bill said amplification is what defines the sound. You could be a great guitar player, but if the amplification is not right, you won't get the desired sound. So yeah, Bill, I absolutely get where you're coming from, but I think it's a blend of both.
yeah,
You know, like
it is.
you want a decent amp, but your effects really matter as well. Like you can make a kind of crappy amp sound a lot better if
Yeah,
you have decent effects. You know, you definitely want both. Generally, what I look for in an amp is I just wanted something that's going to be really clean and just be like a. I think they call them pedal platforms, don't they? Just
yeah.
an amp that's going to just kind of not color things too much, but just kind of yeah. Like what's the definition of that, Adam? Am I right in calling that a pedal platform?
Yeah, it's like a transparent amplifier that kind of it just takes pedals well. Blue Boy
Yeah.
here says he's got the Katana 100 Head Mark II. Great amplifier, especially if you're looking at modeling. And he's also pairing that off with the Boss GX 100, which is, I believe, they're like the Boss's answer to the multi effects unit. And yeah, I mean, even a Katana and a Boss GX 100, that's a really great combination. The Katana handles pedals well because the Katana is built by a pedal company. So they knew what they were doing. Honestly, if you're looking for an amplifier that can take pedals well and also do its own thing, don't look any further than the Katana. If you want a transparent tube amplifier, you can get a Trainer amp, TRAYNOR, for very cheap. And honestly, look on your used market, Facebook Marketplace, wherever you are. I buy gear off of there all the time,
Yeah,
used, and
yeah,
it's the best place to be.
it's a
And as
great way
well,
to save money, isn't it? Like if
it
you're buying
is.
these things new, sometimes they are super pricey.
And if you're like us here in Canada, we have Long and McQuaid Musical Instruments as like our primary music distributor, and they have wonderful financing programs too. So if it's a case of like, hey, I really want this thing, and this is what I'm looking at, but I can't do it today, talk to your local music store. Maybe they offer you a financing option. If you're Canadian,
Yeah.
head up Long and McQuaid. If you're Canadian, you already know that they're the best. So
Yeah, and trade in some stuff, like
trade in
so,
some stuff. Yeah.
like that's another good way to do it. If you've got some old guitar stuff that you don't use very often, like at the moment, I'm trying to get rid of that Ultra Telecaster that I got with the roasted maple neck. I'm not feeling it, man. I'm trying to.
In Nashville,
No. The Nashville's not going anywhere. I love the Nashville
say,
Telly.
fall off my chair. What? You
Yeah,
love that thing? Cool.
no. The Nashville Telly, the Player Plus Nashville Telly, is the absolute business. That's not going anywhere. But that guitar, the Player Plus, that was like almost a third. Actually, yeah, it was. I think it was about a third the price of the Ultra Telly. But it beats it hands down. The Player Plus Telecaster, the new ones, I think they might be the best value
Yeah.
tellies that you can get, just in terms of bang for your buck. They are awesome, man.
Yeah.
Rolled edges on the neck, like real like attention to detail. It's like it feels like a custom shop guitar. Setup was perfect. The pickups are amazing. I love that Nashville Telly.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
I
were
want to
the
get to
you were
some
the one that
questions.
made me want to buy a Telecaster in the first place because I had never sworn by Telecasters before, and now I've got one of my own Nashville style tellies too. So
Yeah,
we're
dude.
twins.
Telecasters. I love that. I think they are my favorite guitar, and they're certainly my favorite electric guitar for people to begin with. If somebody's
Yeah.
brand new to electric guitars, the Telecaster's great, man. It's so simple. It sounds so good. It's a great starter electric guitar. Okay, a couple of questions that I got here. Oh, by the way, everybody, if you're enjoying this video, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button so other people can find it. Ellie asked a great question. Ellie said, how is the NGA membership different than having purchased several courses in the past? So Ellie, there's sort of 5 ways it's different. Number 1 would be you get all of the courses included in the membership rather than just a couple of them. I don't know how many courses we've got now. I've actually lost count, but there's lots. But also you get guitar metrics, which gets you the personalized guitar learning plan. You also get access to the community campus and the learning forum where all of our members are. Amazing community, very welcoming, supportive people. You get access to the weekly live stream, and you also get access to our song library with all the ability. We've got like ability level indicators on all of the song sheets and tabs, so you can find stuff that's suitable for your level quickly. So the membership, I think, it's insane value at the moment, and that's why we're actually putting the price up because I think at the moment it's just crazy how much people get for that. So, oh yeah, Gary, there you go. That's perfect timing. Gary said, "My girlfriend signed me up for your email list months ago. I've been a member ever since. Well worth the money."
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for saying that publicly. Blue Boy said the NGA membership is worth each and every penny.
You guys are
Great.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thanks very much for sharing that.
I add something there really quick, Mike.
Yeah, go for it, mate. Yeah.
So here's the thing, El, is that or Ellie, I'm not sure either way. In the past, National Guitar Academy has very much been like a solo learning platform. You come, we have our content, we have our lessons online. You take those lessons yourself. We have our email list where we send out more lessons, but all of this stuff is a solo journey, right? There was no community involvement at all whatsoever. And when we decided that it was time for a change within National Guitar Academy, the big question is like, how do we get people to come together? Because the thing is, especially in this age of the internet that we're in, and in the years past that we've had to deal with, where everybody across the world's had to deal with isolation, the biggest gift that we could think that we could give to anybody is a sense of worldwide community where everybody is supported. And that is the really big part about this membership program.
Yeah,
that
it was the
push forward,
it was the community part of it that we wanted, wasn't it? And like, wow, people have delivered on that, haven't they? It's so
It's beautiful.
lovely to see. Yeah,
It's
it really
beautiful.
is.
Yeah. And a lot of them are here right now in the chat. So, and thank you all for your input here. We see a lot of you week after week in the forums that are also like contributing to other people. Like there are other beginner guitar players that are like, hey, this worked for me. Go try this out.
Yeah, but I think it's like if you put something out there into the world, yeah, and people agree with it, then they're attracted to it, aren't they? So it sort of makes sense in a way that you kind of attract and repel people in equal measure.
Yeah.
For like we won't be everyone's cup of tea, Adam. That's fine. But for the people who we aren't, they don't become members, do they?
No.
So
And if
you
we're not
kind
your
of,
cup of tea, we might be your shot of whiskey.
especially on a Saturday night. I
Or a
wanted to
Thursday
make
morning.
I wanted to make this point here. Well, Bill. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, Bill said me like social like artificial intelligence is getting out of control. Yeah, social media like artificial intelligence is getting out of control. But
Yeah.
without it, we would not be doing this. So that's right. That's absolutely right, Bill. So the secret is keep it within the realms of good taste. You're right. There's pros and cons to any new technology, isn't there? And we've got to, you've got to try and like take the rough, take the good bits, and get rid of the bad bits.
Yeah.
This point here from Martin, such a great point. Martin said, thanks chaps, I did get bought a multi-effects pedal, but it was mind-blowingly complicated to work, completely way over my non-tech head. Martin, I had the exact same experience multiple times. I would always buy multi-effects units thinking that would be the best way to go. And they were just too confusing, man. It was too hard, and there's different patches and voices and buttons, and it was too hard for me. So I think the best thing to do, I know this sounds like really obvious, but the best thing to do is to just sit your backside down with a beer or a cup of tea, read the instruction manual for an hour, just sit and read the manual. And it's kind of dull because you just want to get started and make music. Read the manual for an hour, have a highlighter nearby, highlight the important bits. And then what I do is I just create maybe 4 or 5 tones that are my go-to tones. And that's all I use them for. It takes a while to set them up and dial them in just how you want, which is why you read the manual to figure out how to do it. But then once you've got that and you kind of got the tones you want saved in a bank, especially if it's quite a big pedal, you've just got pedals where you select the tones that you want, then you're in business, mate. So, but please know, Martin, I hear you, dude. Like I've been there, and you just feel really frustrated, and it feels like the technology is getting in the way of you and the music, and that's not how it's meant to work. But in my experience, you have to put in some hard yards at the very beginning, and then it does what it's meant to do, which is empower you as a musician and not kind of scramble your brain with all of the technology and how hard it is to set things up. Because sometimes the user interface on some of those multi-effects units is absolutely dire. It's so bad, honestly. Like I've had so many bad multi-effects units. Like Adam, I know you're running the Helix now.
Yeah.
I probably would already
like
have. Yeah, I would probably already have one of them if I hadn't had so many bad experiences with multi-effects in the past, just like Martin.
Yeah, and that was the thing for me too. Like I had an RP100A from Digitech for years, which was really cool, and like that got me introduced to a whole bunch of stuff. And then I had a whole pedal board for ages that I had built because I was playing in an ambient rock band and all those types of things. I've run the gamut on pedal boards and everything. And at a certain point, the reason that I ended up at the Helix in the first place was because I was so frustrated with everything, but B, I didn't really want to record amplifiers in my house. So I was like, okay, what can I pull the trigger on here that will kind of solve all of these problems? And it was hilarious because when I got the Helix, I hadn't planned on gigging with it right away. And then I got booked for a huge show at a really big club in downtown Toronto. And I was like, okay, well, I can't screw this up. So I sat down one night with a beer and the instruction manual and with YouTube open, and I went through everything. And then it actually ended up being that another one of the bands that was playing that same gig that I was playing, Temple Driver, where they were called. I ended up getting in touch with their guitar player who was also using a Helix. So he showed up about 2 hours early to the venue. We plugged this thing in, and he literally taught me on the spot. We built patches for it at the venue. I performed with it, and then I had a nervous breakdown afterwards because it was so stressful. But in doing that, that trial by fire was enough to put me over the edge and say, okay, I at least have something to work with. Then I took those presets that we had built, I explored them a little bit to try and see how everything functioned. And that's where I kind of learned you just got to give it the time. Don't rush yourself through it and read the manual.
Yeah, I know it sounds like such a simple tip, but like it really does help. And like I'm not a manual guy. I just want to get started,
Nobody
like I
if you're a dude, you don't want to read the manual.
Yeah, I just want to do the thing. Don't slow me down with words and detail. Like I just want to do the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, sometimes you got to read. You got to read the thing to do the thing. Sometimes. Yeah. James said, speaking of Keith Richards, have you covered much about open tuning? About open G tuning? you know what, James? We haven't, but we should. I will definitely add that to our list of topics, and I think it'd be cool to do a live stream on that in the future because it is a really cool tune in Open G.
Yeah, we
We should
covered Open
absolutely,
C on
yeah,
YouTube.
we should, we should cover that, shouldn't we? We should do like maybe a YouTube long video on that. Guys, we are way behind on the comments. I want to catch up on some of these. There's some great points here for people saying about how there was more politics and like rebelliousness in people back then.
Yeah.
Bruce said it was the nexus of the civil rights movement, Vietnam and Nixon. And Bill said there'll be no decade like the 60s. I think you're probably right, Bill. It was a special decade, wasn't it? Looking back on it with the benefit of hindsight, you can see that there was something special going on in the 1960s. There's no doubt about that. Certainly for me as such a big music fan, I think the 60s probably does win the awards as like the best decade. If you were going to if you were going to set limits on a 10-year period, I think the 60s probably does win, I think. Just speaking personally from the type of music that I enjoy. Bruce with the same comment. Hey, that's what Adam said. Is there a pencil for your t-shirt, Mike?
Mike asked me before the call if cassettes were around when I was a kid. Yes, they were. And that's how you had to rewind them. And that was my first introduction to tape and audio engineering.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about that until you mentioned it, Adam, about that like winding trick. All right, cool. I want to, before we run out of time, everybody, two other points that I wanted to touch on. Number one, our artist of the week is Fleetwood Mac.
Hey.
Now, I've been on a big Fleetwood Mac deep dive lately. I'm just going to summarize it for anybody who maybe isn't aware of Fleetwood Mac or might not be hip to the fact that they are basically two completely different bands. So you have early Fleetwood Mac, which was very, very bluesy. Peter Green was the guitarist, and he was, for a time, it's kind of up there with, like Clapton and Jimmy Page and all of those guys as like a real guitar god. But unfortunately, he took some weird acid in Germany and he just completely lost the plot, the poor guy. But like early Peter Green stuff, Fleetwood Mac, amazing. That's like Albatross, Oh Well, all of that, like super, so groovy. Black Magic Woman, amazing blues guitar. Like as good as anything you'll ever hear, like Santana, it's so good, so good. So you have that early period. And then Fleetwood Mac, like when, sadly Peter Green went off the rails and obviously left the band. Kind of similar to what happened to Syd Barrett from Pink Floyd, actually, mental health issues induced by LSD kind of ruined his life. But he left the band, and then for years, Fleetwood Mac were kind of crap from what I can tell. Certainly, they didn't really create that much stuff that stands the test of time now, from what I can tell. But then they had a sort of a second period where Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham joined, and then they blossomed into this kind of folk rock. Now, I'll caveat this by saying that second Fleetwood Mac period, like when they were bad, dude, they were terrible. Like think of the worst pop music you can possibly think of. Add a bit of like 1980s chintz to it, and like that's Fleetwood Mac when they were bad. They were bad, dude. But oh my god, when they were good, like they were really, really, really good.
I love Rumours, man.
Yeah, like Rumours, the Fleetwood Mac album. And also there's some good tracks later on, I think on Tango in the Night, I think was the album. But like for anybody who's not hip to Fleetwood Mac and maybe both of those eras, sometimes when you mention Fleetwood Mac to people, they think of the cheesy 1980s pop and they're like, Fleetwood Mac, what? And you're like, dude, no. Like if you're a fan of guitar music,
yeah,
and everybody watching this live stream is, and you're not hip to that early Fleetwood Mac stuff, like you're missing out. You've got to go and check that out. Adam, what are your feelings about Fleetwood Mac? Like,
I love Fleetwood Mac, man. I was only really ever exposed to a lot of the later stuff, but I actually went to college with a girl who did the best Stevie Nicks impersonation ever in my life. And she, she kind of got me turned on to a lot of their stuff. And it was funny, previously, before that, I gigged with a female duo for a while, two girls. It says our acoustic guitar player. They do a lot of like folky vocal harmonies and stuff. And it was just the two vocalists and me on guitar. And I remember they turned to me one day and they're like, yeah, we want to do Landslide by the Dixie Chicks. And I was like, you mean by Fleetwood Mac? They're like, no, it was the Dixie Chicks. I'm like, you mean by Fleetwood Mac?
Yeah, I hate
And
that.
there was like this whole argument about who did it. I'm like, you can't sit here and tell me the Dixie Chicks wrote this song. They didn't. Go look it up. And so it was funny because when they introduced themselves, we were playing a cafe gig. I'm like, this is Landslide by the Dixie Chicks. And I went, Fleetwood Mac. And I started. And we stopped playing shortly after that.
Yeah, it's like it's a bugbear of mine when people reference a cover of a song. It's like, and I always hate it if I ever make that mistake. Like I didn't know, like when I was a kid, I didn't know like Spirit in the Sky. There was a cover, there was a very successful cover of it in the UK. I think it was a #1 hit by a band called Doctor and the Medics, and I thought that was the original. Right. But of course, the original was Norman Greenbaum,
right?
Which is one of my absolute favorite songs. But I didn't know that for years. It's always like, I don't know. You want to know the original source, don't you, rather than a cover version? Because generally, I would say, not always, but generally cover versions aren't as good as the originals. Generally, with some notable exceptions.
There are some notable exceptions for sure. Actually, I'll give you a really weird notable exception to that. If you want to hear a really cool adaptation of a Cars song that is completely different, because I know we mentioned the Cars earlier, listen to Drive by Deftones. Okay, Deftones are one of my favorite bands. They're one of the bands I grew up with, kind of in the new metal era. Chino Marino is one of my favorite vocalists, and he does this song so well. Actually, Chris, if you're still here, if you could please drop a link to that in the chat. Drive by Deftones, Deftones. You guys will love this. This is one of my favorite covers of anything ever. Mike, I think you'll really enjoy it. It is not a Cars song. It is a Deftones iteration for sure, but it's amazing. I love it.
I'll definitely check that out, mate. I've heard of Deftones. I have heard of Deftones, but I don't think I know any of the songs, so I'll happily check that out.
Yeah, Deftones and Crosses is Chino Marino's other project, and they're both just Crosses is actually about to. I think they're putting out a new record soon, and just it's music that like it's not you when you think of metal, you don't think of Deftones. They're very different, very ambient. It's a whole different experience, but they're just so wonderful.
Any musician whose name is Chino Marino, I'm in. Like I want to. That's a cool rock and roll name if ever there was one. Everybody, I just wanted to reference a couple of the comments here. For anybody who missed it earlier on in the call, we're running a massive promotion at the moment on our membership. It ends in a few days. You can get NGA membership right now for half of the price that it's going to be next week. It's the very end of our launch period, so you can get the membership with launch pricing. Bruce, thank you, mate, for saying that. The best decision that we ever made doing the membership.
Thank you, brother.
Bruce feels so more connected to the music process. Yes, Bruce, that's it, isn't it? That's exactly what we want. People to feel connected to that process.
And we feel connected to our members now too. I mean, it wasn't like this before when you all were just buying courses from us. Now we have something where we're adjoined, we're able to help each other. This is so much better in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Baz says as an intermediate guitarist, dipping into the guitar courses is a no-brainer. Matthew said NGA is great value. I've just moved over from one of your rivals. Very impressed with the content. Awesome. Yeah, very cool. We don't have rivals though, Matthew. If anybody's teaching music, they're friends. Yeah, that's
no competition. No
great
competition.
To have you. Great to have you. Glenn said the community is one of the best pieces of the NGA membership. I agree, Glenn. Thank you. Everybody, thank you so much for putting all these nice comments here. It's really lovely to see all of that.
Thank you.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to hit on before we run out of time was I wanted to talk about 12-string guitars. So each week, Adam, what I'm trying to do on the streams is I want us to talk about, gear, technology, music, artists, but also like chords and leads. And so we're trying to, offering quite a well-rounded live stream, with lots of different things. So 12-string guitars, anybody who's not familiar with this, they're exactly what it sounds like. It's a guitar with 12 strings. They have 4 of the strings, so the low 4 strings, the strings that are underneath them are tuned 1 octave higher. So you've got 4 strings. So on a 12-string guitar, 6 of the strings are just like on a normal guitar. But the 4 strings that are underneath there are tuned 1 octave higher. And then the high E and the B strings are just, they're unison strings, I think. That's right, isn't it, Adam? The high E and the B, I'm pretty sure they're just exactly the same.
Yeah, there are octave above options as well. There never used to. It used to just be like unison on the top too. But to my knowledge, I think some companies now make octave above for E and B, which I mean sounds crazy, but yeah.
Yeah. So, so Adam, I'm going to defer to you on this, mate, because I've played 12 strings and I love the way they sound, but I don't currently own one. It's a hole in my guitar collection, and
Mine too.
I will fill it one day. I'm just waiting for the time to strike.
Yep, that's it.
But like, tell people about 12 string guitars. Like, when do you reach for a 12 string? You know, as a composer, as somebody, you know, who's constantly making music, crafting music, blending and mixing different music, you know, instruments together. Where do you see 12 strings? Like in the guitar world, what role do they fulfill? You know?
Well, when you're talking about like the you know, the immediate application of a 12 string would fall into, you know, your folk, your country type music, your more kind of Americana, Canadiana type music as well.
Yeah,
The cool part about 12 strings, and it's funny because we're talking about effects pedals earlier. Let's talk about chorus for a second, right?
yeah,
Chorus is basically a doubling effect that happens. So when we're playing with a chorus pedal, we kind of have this like oscillating doubling effect going on. The 12 string functions very much the same way, right? So because all the strings are doubled up, um, there's more dimension to the guitar in the first place. It covers a little bit more ground, and it doesn't give the oscillating effect that a chorus pedal does, but they are a little bit similar. The thing I love to do, I don't function. God, man, see, this is the problem. We do this stuff at 10 o'clock in the morning. I can't talk. Need more coffee. But yeah, 12 strings for me fall a lot into the folk category. I reach for them when I want, like if I have an acoustic guitar track playing and I want something just kind of sitting underneath it, I reach for a 12 string. Maybe I play the 12 string halftime of whatever the main acoustic is playing. But sometimes too, man, I mean, it's just nice to experiment and it's just nice to
yeah,
see where it falls, right? And I do the same thing with I know we've talked before about my Nashville Telecaster, which has a pseudo 12 string setup, right? Because I have four octave above strings and then 2 regular strings. It's a 6-string setup, but much the same. I'm just taking 4 strings from a 12 string setup and putting them on a Telecaster. And I reach for that a lot of the time actually in place of a 12 string because it will give that same octave above effect when I put it against a standard 6-string instrument. So if you want something that's going to kind of fill things out a little bit, it's going to automatically give you that folk sound, that country sound that you're looking for. Blues players will also love this. Yeah. Delta blues, especially Chicago blues, like you'll be able to do so much with a 12 string. Just, I guess it just comes down to it's a bigger sound, it's a different sound, and it's unique, right? It has its own voice and therefore it has its own place. But realistically, if you have a 12 string as a composer, I would tell you treat it like hot sauce, put it on everything, baby.
yeah.
You know?
It's fun just to experiment, isn't it? And just to try something new. And like, and when and I always think it sounds great. You know, it's like at the moment I've got an acoustic guitar with the Nashville tuning on it, Adam. So the strings that the Dario sent us.
Oh, so you worked it out, eh?
Yeah, yeah. So I've got them on my acoustic at home. It's like it's wild when you put it on. Like
You put it on
when
the acoustic.
yeah, yeah. So they're on the Nashville acoustic strings.
Yeah.
So like I can't even remember what they are. Like 4 of the strings I think are tuned an octave higher. But
Octave up, and then your B and your E are standard, yeah.
that's it, yeah. But then when you put that on it with like a standard guitar
Yeah.
and you have the Nashville tuning behind it, it
Yeah,
creates
exactly.
this zing. There's this shimmer. It really lifts things, doesn't it? It really punches its weight. It's not one of those things that you add and it's like, oh, it's there if you listen for it. It's right there. You know, it really changes things.
And it broadens the dimension of the sound too. I mean, this is just for an example. This isn't plugged in, but you can hear
Yeah, it's almost like
those standard strings
almost like
against
a
the.
lute or a mandolin, isn't it? You hear that higher.
That's what I use this for a lot of the time, though. Is like
Yeah.
because I don't have a lute, I don't have a mandolin, but I do have this, and it's a cool thing about having like a Nashville setup like this is that there's so many different applications. Even if you just want to play like unison strings.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and it's
Yeah.
different. So it's going to add a completely different dimension to your recordings, to your playing. If you all are experimenting with recording, go out to your local music store, grab yourself a set of Nashville strings. And like we've talked about in previous live streams too, actually, I think we did this on a members one, but I was telling people if you have a guitar that you're not using, take it into your local music store, get a set of Nashville strings, ask the tech in-house to put the strings on you and put the strings on it and set it up for you. It's going to completely change your experience. And yeah, mandolin, lute, it can sub in for a lot of different stuff. And trust me, I know, I've used this on everything.
And it, like I said before, it's just fun to try something new. I think as guitarists, it's so nice to we get so used to playing in a certain way. And then when you have a different instrument, it takes you in different directions. Just super quick before we run out of time, I just wanted to reference a couple of other comments that that we had here. So number one, where's it gone now?
Jeremy?
Martin said, hey, my birthday party debut performance is only 4 weeks on Saturday. Getting a bit nervous now, but can't wait for it to come around.
That's cool.
Yeah, Martin, you need to keep us posted. And like, if there's any, I don't know, if anybody videos it, please share it. Like, share it with us in the community. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, that sounds really, really cool. So I also wanted to say a big thank you to Jeremy for saying becoming a member of the Academy has been the best decision. Both Mike and Adam make it fun learning and they inspire you to become the best musician you can be. Thank you both. Jeremy, thank you. Thank you, mate. Thank you very much for supporting our work. That means the absolute world to us. Thank you. And lastly, where did it go? Somebody asked, here we go. Bleeding Fingers said, what would be the best order to put overdrive, chorus, and delay pedals in? So generally, I have, the way I've got my stuff set up here is I have a tuner, and then I have a compression pedal, an equalizer, then I have my overdrive, and then after my overdrive, I have my delay and some other things. So out of those three, Adam, would you go overdrive, chorus, delay, or would you go, is that the way you do it?
Yeah, I do it exactly the way Bleeding Fingers said. I put your overdrive first, your chorus, and then your delay. If you do have a tuner, put that in the front of the line. And if you have a reverb, put it at the back of the line after the delay. The delay and the reverb, you can experiment. You can switch them back and forth. Some people will tell you not to. I tell you not to listen to those people. But yeah, I would say overdrive, chorus, and delay for sure.
Sweet.
To start with anyway, but don't listen to us. Experiment. Throw things out, throw things around. And remember too, I saw a thing the other day on the internet, just to leave you guys with a tidbit that I think was really interesting. I'm in a recording group on Facebook for people who use Logic Pro, which is the program I use for recording. Yeah. And somebody commented saying, there are so many questions of, what should I do with it? What order would you put this in? How would you do this? Just remember, you're not going to break anything by experimenting. Take all your pedals out, pull power out of all of them, switch them around, plug them back in, see what happens. If it sounds like trash, try it again, do something different. This is the beautiful part about it. And of course, we're here to provide suggestions and insight. Again, there are no such thing as silly questions. But I just want to encourage you to get down on that pedal board, rip everything apart, put it back together and say, do I love it or do I hate it? Yeah. And then go from there. That's all part of the journey. Enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
It's so true that trial and error, and also not being restricted by what other people says. If it sounds good, it is good.
That's it.
That's always been my rule. Like, I don't care what anybody else thinks. If it sounds good to me, it is good. And of course, you can take the advice of other people. Like, generally, what we just said, overdrive, chorus, delay. Generally, that would be best. But if you prefer it a different way, that's absolutely fine. Listen, everybody, I just wanted to say before we wrap up 2 things. Number one, our new membership, massive membership promotion is about to end. If you want to get our launch pricing, it will end in a few days. National Guitar Academy membership will never be this cheap again, so it's the best possible time to join if you're on the fence. If you join, you get a free personalized guitar learning plan dedicated just to you that will show you your blind spots as a guitarist, show you what's holding you back, and show you exactly what you need to do to improve. Number 2, you will get access to all of our guitar courses, which is a world-class guitar learning suite at your fingertips. Yep. Amazing courses in there, so many of them, all made with love and care. You will love them very much. Number 3, you get access to our amazing community campus and learning forum. Such a welcoming community of really brilliant, like-minded, generous, supportive guitar learners there that will lift you up. Number 4, you get access to our song library, where you'll find chord sheets and tabs filtered by ability level, so you can quickly find things that work best for you. Number 5, you get the dubious pleasure of a weekly live stream where you get to see mine and Adam's ugly faces smiling at you. Adam maybe before he's had his coffee, me later on in the day, kind of tired. But if you want to join, scan the QR code or go to the link below. And the last thing I want to say is a huge thank you to you for showing up and supporting the live stream. It's lovely to see this growing each week. It's lovely to see people joining us here and sharing in this amazing thing that we all love so much. Adam, any closing words before we sign off?
Y'all that are here right now are putting in the effort for yourselves. You are the next wave of musicians, and it's just an honor for us to be able to facilitate all of this for you. If you want more than what you're getting on Thursday live streams here on YouTube, hop over to the membership, try it out. We're really trying to build something special here. We've taken the last year to plan this. We took the last 6 months to gather as much data as we could and to A/B test everything. And we are really confident that we've taken all the data we could find across the internet, put it together and said, where are the potholes and how can we fill them in? And Mike, I think you'll agree with me that I think we've filled in a lot. Like there's a lot of really good stuff here, and it's growing all the time. We're working on more courses, more people are coming through every day, and they're all contributing. So come join us in the NGA membership. We love to see you there.
Yeah, come and join us. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
lovely to see you all. Adam, thank you, my brother from another mother.
Thank you, brother.
We will see the members on Monday. We'll be back for the Musicmakers live stream next week. Everybody, thank you. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you next week.
Go practice. Peace.